Hello, everyone. My name is Dave Das from the Akasha Yoga Academy. I'm here to share with you some thoughts on what I think is an interesting topic called the fear of being alone. Now, I think for most people, the fear of being alone brings up the concept, oh, I'll be old and I'll be all by myself. And um, what's interesting about that fear is that I actually feel that's not the fear that people are afraid of, although there's some fear also in that. But I feel that the real, more present fear is really the fear of being alone, meaning the fear of being just by yourself without any input from life. No more sensory stimulation, no telephone, no meeting, no agenda, nothing, just being here by yourself. And in fact, that is the intention of spiritual practice. That's why sometimes the great yogis say things like the river of life for most people is flowing this way, and the yogis, they're going against the river. Most people are absolutely terrified to really be alone with themselves, and yet the yogi looks for opportunities to dive into the ocean of their own being and gets accustomed to being alone. Just on the Zoom call this morning on our 200-hour yoga teacher training, a woman was telling the story about a few years ago. She was just taking a moment in nature, and she was sitting and feeling every element of the earth and watching life unfolding in a meadow in front of her. She looked up at the sky, saw the expanse of the sky and the clouds, and she said, suddenly just tears started to flow, just intense tears, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were just like a letting go. And it was a profound sharing, and as it was happening, I was feeling this is the true experience of being alone. She said she was totally sober for this event. It was not something in any altered state. It was a discovery of something central and true in her own being. Once in India, I called my own teacher and asked if I could come. He lived in the mountains in the Himalayas. I used to come to visit him, and before I would come, I would call and make sure it was okay if I came. And he said, "Oh, you are coming?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Are you coming alone?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Then the whole universe is coming." It just, those words just sank into my being in a profound way. And yet, many people, as I mentioned earlier, they're doing everything they can not to discover that. They're keeping themselves involved in this thing and that thing because on some level we celebrate what we are at the deepest level, and on some level we're afraid of what we are on the deepest level. There's another story about, a few more stories about being alone that I want to share with you that I feel like are relevant to the topic. There was once a teacher in India, and he had 3 students with him, and he said to all 3 students, "Okay, take this banana, go to somewhere where you're absolutely sure you're alone, and eat the banana." And so the first student said, okay. He went just outside the ashram wall. He was kind of looking around. Okay, it doesn't look like anybody's here. He just gobbled down the banana, and okay, it's all good. He came back to his teacher with a big smile on his face. The next fellow goes out. He goes a little bit farther. He goes even outside of the town into some kind of like forest area, sneaks behind this tree and looks around, eats his banana and comes back. And then there's a woman, and she's the last one to go on the adventure, and she leaves, and she doesn't come back. And night begins to fall, and she's still not back. And finally she comes back with the banana in her hand. And she looks at her teacher and she says, I couldn't find anywhere where I was alone to eat this banana because you're always with me. One of my friends used to say, it's kind of a compliment that's not a compliment, but is a compliment if you're a yogi. She said to me, being with you is just like being with myself. So, wow. Profound, huh? Because there is rare company that you're with that company, you're with somebody, you're enjoying the play of manifestation, the play of having a body, and yet you're completely alone. I remember when I first started on the spiritual journey, I think I really misunderstood a little bit this element of being alone, and I landed in Varanasi. Varanasi is this beautiful ancient city, supposed to be the oldest continuously inhabited city in the entire world, right on the Ganga in India, but full power, loud and chaotic and crazy and massively, massively beautiful. I had the privilege to live there for some years, but at this point in my journey I was just visiting. And as I was visiting, a Mahatma, a great teacher from the area, had come to Varanasi, and I went to go see him. And I was kind of dealing with wanting to kind of find a secluded space for meditation, and then finding myself in Varanasi, which was not very secluded. And I went and I asked him, you know, how do I find the silence that I'm looking for? Where do I find the silence to contemplate? And he had such a magnificent answer. He was just surrounded by people. There was just tons of people around. And he said, I am completely alone right now. I'm in my stillness. I'm in my silence. Wow. All one, alone. Alone means all one. I am in the knowledge of the depth of my heart, my silence, and yet life is happening. Most people are running from the fear of being alone, but the true yogi looks at that as a refuge, as a haven, as a beautiful opportunity to explore something of who and what we are. So, thank you for being here together. All of my love and gratitude. If you enjoy this kind of talk, hit subscribe below on the buttons. We would love to see you again sometime. And thank you for sharing the space together. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.